How is that possible? I literally just hit the button. It says we've been live for 30 seconds. Well, 20.
I don't know.
That much time has not elapsed.
Well, but you did hit the button.
I did hit the button.
Okay. Oh, Jeff
Goldblum's silent fart finds a way.
Man, that is still
draws first blood.
That's just...
You know what? I'm going to have to make a first blood badge that I can run over this thing just to...
that's right, because they can hear us now. We're tired of our microphones not working.
Yeah, it prevents basically, you just tech check before the show starts.
Right. Okay.
I don't think this is the article to start with. I want to get to this article, but it's not the...
Well, I mean, WTF CNN. It's probably the place to start. But it's 7:30.
It is. Yeah, let's go. And good morning. So, we haven't even started talking to you guys about anything yet, and I'm afraid I gotta give Jeff Goldblum's silent fart finds a way the top comment. He got permanently banned for calling LeBron James a pansy. That's pretty gentle language for that SOB.
Was that on Twitter?
He said, yeah, he got permanently banned from Twitter for calling LeBron James a pansy.
But King James, like, okay, nice pun, but arrogant much?
Yeah.
And say what you want. You still hadn't lapped Michael Jordan, King James. You know how I know? Because there's still a question about whether or not you have in fact lapped Michael Jordan. You take somebody like Larry Bird, who's an excellent basketball player, but nobody's like, yeah, but was Larry Bird better than Michael Jordan? No, nobody questions that. And it's the same thing with King LeBron. Also, real quick, need to issue a minor correction. It was in fact Travis McMichael that gave the original description to Ahmaud Arbery on the 11th. When the original series of supposed robberies took place. Not the police giving the description of Ahmaud Arbery to the McMichaels. We did have that part factually incorrect. All the other stuff still did happen. The police were still looking for Ahmaud Arbery for suspected robbery. That part all happened. But it was actually Travis McMichael that described Arbery to the cops, not the cops that described Ahmaud
you mean
Arbery.
when... Okay, so you're talking about before the cops were knocking on doors asking for Arbery, after McMichaels had reported that his truck had been broken into and somebody stole a firearm.
I'm not even
which led to the police, while they were searching for Arbery, entering the property in question with their weapons drawn because Arbery was reported as being armed and dangerous.
I'm not even going into all that. I'm just saying that the part that I factually got incorrect yesterday was that the police described Ahmaud Arbery to the McMichaels, when in fact on the 11th it was originally the McMichaels that described Ahmaud Arbery to the cops. Just trying to be... It's a thing. It's WTF CNN.
That doesn't seem to change any of the
No,
facts.
No, and Officer Tatum did a really good breakdown from a police officer's perspective about how citizens arrest works. It's worth going back and checking out. Like, yeah, sure, like Brandon Tatum needs me to recommend his channel since he's coming up on 2 million subs.
Right.
But
well played, sir. Well played.
Yes, but he does a really good breakdown of it. However, WTF CNN. CNN has this habit of, like, getting things wrong. Now, to be fair, I think CNN gets them wrong on purpose. I got something wrong on accident. But I got something wrong, so I'm
Fair enough.
omnibudsman and whatnot. And you think CNN could hire an omnibudsman? It's supposed to be Brian Stelter, isn't it? Isn't it?
Dear God.
He's totally straight.
I don't know what's happening right now. It's making me nervous.
I was doing my Brian Stelter. And
you totally screwed me up with the whole with going to the correction on the Arbery case, because we were talking about LeBron James, and I was gonna crack the joke, Speaking of Chinese hookers, Joe Biden did a thing.
Joe Biden did it. Well, it's actually Swalwell that has a tendency to go for the Chinese hookers.
And Hunter Biden.
Yeah. Well, yeah, this is also true.
Well, are they really hookers? Are they really prostitutes? I mean, when you're under 11, that's really a sex slave thing, right? That's not the same as prostitution, is it?
We're not entirely
sure. Is
forced
prostitution the same as prostitution?
Well, I mean, it's non-consensual sex. Fang, fang, bang, bang, bang. Yes, excellent. And I just want to point something out.
Shit, Jeff, just keep racking them up, brother.
And just to address the chat real quick, both Steve and Jeff Goldblum's silent fart point something out, that part of what Jordan did was act with a certain degree of class. He was not without scandal, but even in his lowest moments, there was a certain appreciation that Jordan had for his fantastic amount of wealth and popularity, that the current crop of people don't seem to, how can I say this? They don't seem to appreciate it. And I think basketball players in particular are some of the biggest pansies. They actually get, on paper at least, the best deal in all of professional sports. Like, they really do. They get the largest sum total percentage of the game. And so, like, when basketball players are like, we're going on strike, I'm like, for what? You get the highest percentage out of everybody. So, yeah.
So, speaking of people taking a percentage, Biden did a thing. Oh, hookers, bribes, extortion, corruption. It all comes back to Biden. And I mean, you're fooling yourselves if you think that Biden is the head of some corrupt organization. He's somebody's bitch.
He's the head of a corrupt organization, but he's like...
He's the figurehead of a corrupt organization.
Well, I mean, he's the gang leader that controls like 4 blocks out of a 30-block territory that some other gang leader controls all 30 blocks of.
Right.
That's what Biden is.
But it's the party of Theseus. You could replace everybody, and it will still have the same rotten soul.
Fair enough, but there does seem to just be all the weird and bizarre things with the Biden family. It's almost like there was a laptop that implicated everybody.
Right.
And organizations like CNN.
And when you say everybody, right, let's not forget, the Hunter Biden laptop basically named every current Democrat office holder, with the exception of Bernie Sanders and Tulsi Gabbard, basically, as some level of co-conspirator in significant criminal conspiracy. This is not opinion. This is a fact. You can fact check that shit.
No, you can't, because you can't find stories about the fucking laptop.
Because it got memory hold. Okay, this is something that I hadn't anticipated discussing in particular, but it's worth taking a quick swing at, because you're going to see a little bit more of it, and we have been seeing it happen more and more of late. A good example is the Waukesha situation. Suddenly it became very clear that this is a no shit legitimate Black Lives Matter terrorist committing an intentional volitional act of terrorism for the explicit purpose of causing political unrest and change through the use of force and violence.
Yeah, the
in the
rational
name of a
object of
specific
terror.
cause.
Yeah.
Right? By definition, terrorism. And nobody's talking about it anymore. It's disappeared from all of your corporate press entirely. Primarily because, well, he is what he is. Meanwhile, you've got one unhinged kid goes and shoots up a school, and that is somehow terrorism. No evidence or interest at all in any kind of political motivation or
Oh
ideological
no, his mom was totally a Trump supporter.
I'm sure she was.
But I mean, that's
and he's right, and that's why this is terrorist, and that's how he gets to be a terrorist, but the obvious legitimate terrorist is not. I remember reading 1984 and reading in there at the time that I read 1984 to begin with. The internet was barely a thing, right? We weren't even into the .com bubble, where like the internet wasn't even important enough at the time for people to start saying this is a fad that will go away, right? People hadn't even had the opportunity to be that wrong yet when I first read 1984, and they talked about how the main character, whose name escapes me now, was something Smith. Anyway, his job was to edit history, to make history go away, to make information, or to either change it or to make it go away. And it described him doing that by going through and editing microfiche, editing newspapers, right? Oh, Winston, yes, thank you, Steve. By hand cutting replacement headlines and taping them over newspapers. And I remember thinking, okay, this is an interesting concept. It's terrifying in theory, but it's impossible in practice because you would have to literally go around the world and collect all of the newspapers and destroy the ones that didn't match the new copy. Same thing with the microfiche. You'd have to go around and collect but the internet, the information age, makes the existence of a Winston Smith, makes the existence of a Big Brother party possible. And we're seeing it in real time.
Well, that's how they do it, is they do it in real time. You take a
Correct.
story like the Hunter Biden laptop story, and you suppress it from day one, and then you don't have to go back and edit it out later because such a large chunk of the population never got the information in the first place.
Right.
I mean,
and we've even seen in polling that if it were not for Twitter banning the New York Post and removing the Hunter Biden story, there is such a large number of Democrats who have said in polling that if they had known about the Hunter Biden laptop situation, they would not have voted for Joe Biden. The polls are clear on that. If it had not been for Twitter's active interference with the election, Joe Biden would not have won the most secure election in history. And that's not a claim about fraud occurring within the election itself. I'm saying that Twitter committed the crime of interference. Okay, and that's a very, very serious accusation that I mean absolutely to stick by. Bring me your lawyers. I'd love to see them.
well, not just Twitter. I mean, it's WTF CNN, and I'm going to kind of nudge us back toward the point.
Well, and you can send money to hashtag Lowry because obviously, GoFundMe just isn't going to let me raise a legal defense.
We should flash our Cash App on the screen every now and then. That might not be a bad idea. Anyhow, but I mean, it's not just Twitter. I mean, it's also CNN, and part of the reason why I chose CNN, like years ago when I had like the 2 a.m. brainstorm about doing a daily show and whatever, I wanted to pick CNN as the news organization that was primarily focused on, because CNN, once upon a time, was the news, okay? Like, CNN was it. Like, when Ted Turner was like, I know what, I'm going to create a 24-hour news network. It's going to be brilliant. Everybody thought he was not brilliant. And to his credit, Ted Turner proved them all wrong. But then...
And may have doomed us all.
And yes, may have doomed us all. But then it didn't take very long before, like, Roger Ailes was like, hey, what if I did the same thing? All I have to do is just suck less than CNN.
What if I did the same thing and lied less often?
Yeah, just suck less than CNN.
I don't even have to lie a lot less often, just a little less often.
Yeah, and then Fox News was born and has basically dominated the ratings ever since. I mean, yeah. Yeah, okay, so we're about 15 minutes in, so let's actually talk about
the thing we're going to talk about.
Let's actually talk about the fact that
in fairness, the stuff that we've been talking about is more or less directly related. So Biden meets with Putin. Now, this is interesting. CNN leads with a picture of the two of them shaking hands.
Yes.
In their Biden meets with Putin. Right? Oh, I see what happened. I grabbed a CNN article, and it's outdated.
I sent you a CNN article.
I know. I thought that was the one I opened. Maybe I have it open somewhere else, but I'll just open the link you sent me.
See, I try.
That's freaking weird that
I try.
Okay.
Right. Now we're actually going to do this. And hey, Krista's joined us this morning, so good morning. Good morning.
So, Biden told Putin that things we did not do in 2014 we are prepared to do now if Russia escalates in Ukraine, top advisor says.
Yeah?
That's adorable.
Like what?
He's a liar.
Well, you know what's funny? I like how he really subtly is throwing shade at Obama there. Mm-hmm. Like, well, when Obama was in charge, we were kind of sissies.
Well, and he has to. He can't afford not to throw shade at Obama on this. Russia has been in check under Trump for years now, and that's no longer the case. Putin sees what Biden is, and it's important to understand what Biden is. Biden is all of the corruption and weakness of the Obama administration, plus dementia.
What?
He is all of the bad that you could ever hope for from the Democrat Party without the intellectual capacity to temper his evil. So, Biden is like a virus, right? The Democrat Party is a cancer, a viral cancer, and Biden is the worst possible iteration of that cancer, of that virus for itself. As viruses mutate, we've talked about this, they tend to get less lethal.
But more transmissible.
And more transmissible.
See the common cold.
Biden is a more lethal, right? We can actually be thankful for Biden in a few ways. The failures of his administration are going to serve to help burn out some of the otherwise infectious patients that have contracted the disease of wokeness.
Yeah, how pissed is Kamala Harris that this has probably tanked her political career?
Entirely, yes. She, with even just a little bit of luck, she's done.
Yes. All right, I'm actually going to chew through a bit of the article here so that we can move the discussion forward. The White House says President Joe Biden told Russian President Vladimir Putin on Tuesday that the United States is prepared to launch strong economic measures should Russia invade Ukraine, signaling that these new measures would pack a bigger punch than sanctions issued in 2014 that failed to stop Russia from occupying Crimea. Hey, I could have this slightly wrong. Look, hold on. I could have this slightly wrong, but didn't we used to have both nukes and missile defense technology in Ukraine?
Oh,
didn't we used to have that there?
Didn't we?
I mean, I'm being somewhat facetious, but I'm actually thinking that I'm remembering this correctly. About 10 years ago, we had both nuclear weapons and anti-nuclear missile defense technology in Ukraine, and yeah. Oh, you took the article away. Thanks. So yeah. Well,
what you've brought up is an important point.
So, I mean, because what I was going to get to is if he's willing to do what Obama was not, if he's willing to do what Obama was in fact not willing to do, that might be to, I don't know, put missile defense technology back into the Ukraine. But whatever. His.
Okay, that's not the one.
Okay, so
that's a different.
Yeah. So while you're doing that, I'm going to say, okay. Let's see. Steve Rodemeyer says, now if we could tie Abrams to that train, it's funny when you talk about tying Abrams to train in regard to Kamala Harris. I think we're talking about two completely different types of trains to get tied to. And then. Krista says, tanked it? I mean, she was never even in the top 10 candidates. No, she was not, in fact, in the top 10 candidates. However, getting made vice president is kind of a springboard to your career. It's something like 45% of vice presidents, like, former Vice President Joe Biden, end up becoming the president because that's sort of the ultimate leg up, right?
Right.
I mean, there's just not that many people that can campaign on, oh, yeah, by the way, I was the VP. I was the one heartbeat away. Mm-hmm. So elect me, right? And then let's see. It seems like Jeff Goldblum's silent fart finds a way. We're going to have to give that an acronym because that's fun to say, but it's also long to say. He says, yes, and it was in violation of the treaty that we made with Russia.
Correct. And Obama, before he was president, was instrumental in drawing down U.S. conventional weapons presences in Ukraine. And then, as president, he was also responsible for removing more weapons and defenses from Ukraine. He did spend money on military defenses in Ukraine, but he removed a lot of our military capability there. And Obama was also instrumental, let's not forget, in just straight up disarming the U.S. military.
Yeah. Well, look, there's a Sargon of Akkad several years ago put out a video about why nuclear weapons are good.
Oh, Jeff used to be Johnny Ringo.
Oh. Man, so one person has held two of the most excellent names on our channel. That's fantastic.
I have one gun for each of you.
Exactly. But Sargon put out a video some years ago about how nuclear weapons are good. Believe it or not, even though we see conflict on television all the time, we live in a day and age where war and open conflict is rare. And one of the main reasons why war and open conflict is rare is the existence of nuclear weapons. Arguably, nuclear weapons, the fact that they even exist, save millions of lives every day, because if you push somebody too far, I mean, and let's look at Japan and the United States, and if you want to go down a serious memory hole about how, like, you edit history, like, just as an aside, like Pearl Harbor was yesterday. Japan still has never actually apologized for that. Just kind of an interesting little aside. But when you push people too far, they can drop a nuke on you. Yeah, right.
And so the whole mutually assured destruction argument, it's kind of like this. Me, Christopher Lowry, personally, I am immortal. I will never die, and that statement is as true as it needs to be until somebody proves me wrong. Right?
I'm pretty
that's
sure
not an open invitation to prove it, but I can make that statement, and it's possible to prove me wrong. I'd rather no one did. But the mutually assured destruction argument is kind of the same thing. It does work. It has been working. It is still working. And it will continue to work right up until it doesn't.
Right. So, anyhow, okay. In continuing with the article, I will look you in the eye and tell you as President Biden looked Putin in the eye. and told him today that things we did not do in 2014, we are prepared to do now, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan told reporters Tuesday afternoon after Biden's call with Putin. During the last several months, Russia has erected supply lines, including medical units and fuel, which could sustain a drawn-out conflict should Moscow choose to invade Ukraine, two sources familiar with the latest intelligence assessment told CNN. And recent U.S. intelligence findings estimate Russia could begin a military offensive in Ukraine in a matter of months as it amasses up to 175,000 troops along the border. Sullivan said the administration still believes Putin has not made a decision on whether to launch a military offensive against Ukraine. Sullivan did not go into specifics, but added that the U.S. is coordinating with European allies at a deep level of specificity. He said Biden was direct and straightforward with President Putin, as he always is.
Now listen, comrade. I truly don't have a shower pressure.
My butt's been wiped. Oh, my. He said Biden was direct and straightforward with Putin, as he always is, later admitting that there was a lot of give and take. There was no finger wagging, but the president was crystal clear about where the United States stands on all of these issues. Okay. All right. Just a little more. Let's. Along with economic revenue. That was my Biden impression. Along with the economic ramifications mentioned on the call, Sullivan said Biden relayed that the U.S. is prepared to bolster defense capabilities in the region. He reiterated America's support for Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. He told President Putin directly that if Russia further invades Ukraine, the United States and our European allies would respond with strong economic measures. So, bad Putin. Bad Putin. Right? Yeah, I mean, because look.
It's like we understand that your clear objective, as you have stated in the past, comrade, is to reform the Soviet Union, a no-shit communist nation.
Right.
A giant communist nation state. And so here's our threat. We're going to shut down your capitalism.
Well, not only that, but if the sanctions were going to have any chance at actually affecting the outcome of this, if you hit Russia with the sanctions after they've invaded Ukraine, you lose.
Yep.
Like you want to cut off his supply lines and infrastructure while he's still building them, not after he's completed them. Because after he's completed them, threatening to cut them off, and look, we've talked about this before.
Alex is right. If Biden hates America so much, he should punish us with an environment-destroying pipeline, just like he's doing to Russia.
It's funny because that Alex mentions that, because that is exactly where I was going to go next and point out that Putin has really put his country in a fantastic position because of the oil and gas deals he's made locally.
And
with
the pipeline happens to run right up to where he needs fuel for his war machine.
Exactly.
With American subsidization.
I mean, yeah, all of that. And so...
Wait! Obama 2.0 is going to fund the enemy in an international conflict? Mind blown!
To be fair, you know what? I was gonna make a forced joke about how much of the Obama administration Joe Biden actually remembers, but whatever. So, part of what I wanted to address here in this article is the framing of the CNN article, how they're trying to color everything. It's like, and they can't help themselves, right? Because he's tough and he's firm, but he's not finger wagging, and he's still diplomatic. And they're basically saying, hey, everything's going to be fine because he's not Trump. And
Biden is super, super charismatic and intelligent when sycophants are describing him. As long as you don't actually have to look at him, he's amazing.
Right? Right? I mean, in a 2-hour phone call with Russia, like, really? When was the last time Biden did anything for 2 hours other than nap?
Correct.
I mean,
Yeah, what we're really talking about here is Biden may have been in the same room as this phone call was conducted by mouthpieces.
yes. Yeah, and that's a nice way to say it, I think.
Krista says it definitely sounds like propaganda all the way if you're not sucked into the propaganda machine. One might even go so far as to call it straight Pravda.
Which is, ironically, it's Jeff Goldblum's silent fart. We're just going to start calling you Fart, dude. We love you. Okay, so...
No, he said call him Jeff.
Oh, okay.
We'll go with Jeff.
Oh, okay, fine. So,
Fart boy.
yeah. Jeff says, I don't even believe it's the same Joe Biden. They cloned him in 2017 while the real Biden lives in an assisted living center. If you were going to clone him, you think you could have, eliminated that dementia thing in the cloning process?
I don't know. Apparently that shit is genetically intense. It's deep.
But yeah, so just to kind of tie it all back together.
In fact, his genetic problems are deeper than his gene pool.
Yep. Okay. So just to tie it all back together, Putin ain't scared of Biden. Not even a little bit.
No.
But Biden was super tough. Don't panic.
Anarchy! Morning, sunshine!
He's got this. He's totally gonna do something economic related to Russia now that Russia's got their own pipelines that are gonna pump arguably the single most important resource directly into their country. But he's totally gonna punch him in the pocketbook, and that'll make the point.
Yeah.
Right. Now and all this with CNN about framing him as this tough, wise leader. Pay attention to what you see with your own eyes. It is okay for you to look at a thing and see what you see. And you might see a thing and interpret it incorrectly. That happens, okay? That is not gaslighting. Gaslighting is when you see what you see, and instead of somebody telling you, okay, here's where your interpretation is wrong, gaslighting is when they tell you, you are not seeing the thing that you are seeing. And CNN is gaslighting the absolute shit out of you here, okay? And Biden can't do anything off teleprompter and even on teleprompter for more than about 20 or 30 minutes at a time. So the fact that he had this 2-hour phone call with Russia where suddenly Putin is thinking twice, oh gosh, maybe I shouldn't invade Ukraine because Biden's totally going to slap me on the wrist. And man, nothing in my years of training for the KGB did it ever prepared me to have a demented old man threaten me. I just don't know what I'm going to do.
Right. And speaking of seeing it, let me just, because Jeff made the comment there, tried to find the meeting to watch, but I could only find snippets from MSM, and even then it looked like Putin was laughing at Biden. So I want to put a button on this, need to get going and go do some other stuff.
Faith.
I want to show you this picture.
You mean you have replaced Donald Trump with this guy? It's joke, right? Joke.
So this is the picture that CNN ran back in June when they did meet, right? And I want you to just take a look at that. Just look at the face that Putin is making.
Man, look at the face of Biden. Like, what?
Yeah, Biden's like, I'm here.
Is there ice cream?
Putin's face right there. The narrowed eyes, the little sly smile. Right?
I could break hand right now.
I own this bitch. You're my property, suka.
Oh, yes.
Spasibo for your country, suka.
Yeah, talk about spitting hot borscht while he's crushing these beets.
The cat that ate the canary. Yep.
But, so, halfway through the week. No hump day jokes, because we're not Kamala Harris.
Wow, but we got through a whole show without making any jokes about Vice President Spit Roast. Y'all be safe out there, and we'll see you tomorrow.
No. I made a joke about trains earlier.
Oh, that's right.
It was bad, but it was there.
Everybody ride the train.
Not me. No. Like there's sloppy seconds, and then there's like sloppy 17ths, and just no.
All right, y'all. Be safe out there. We'll see you tomorrow.